At the 2019 Game Developers Conference, you can look forward to an array of talks from speakers across the video game industry. During the week, you will hear from industry legends, niche experts, and amazing advocates, many of whom will want to learn about you and your work as much as you do theirs. At this year's Visual Arts Track, Insomniac Games character Alzayer will dive into the facial rigging of Marvel's Spider-Man from Insomniac Games, showing off how the company incorporated third-party facial rigs, over 150 of them, into the production pipeline of one of 2018 best-selling games. To introduce you to Alzayer before his talk, we reached out to her for a quick Q&A. You can now read below. Would you please introduce yourself and talk about your role in game development? I am Noah Alzayer, a character TD at Insomniac Games, where I worked on rigging for Marvel's Spider-Man, primarily on supporting any facial performance technical needs. Without spoiling it, what will you be talking about at GD? I will be talking about how we navigated feedback and integration of almost 150 face rigs delivered from an external company, and how we managed our little changes to those rigs for things that came up during production. What excites you most about the future of game development? The increased fidelity that will be possible with things like 4D scanning, as well as how increasingly chip scanning technology will change art pipelines and block-ins as things become more democratized. What's something about your specific field you want your colleagues to know more about? Part of the reason I wanted to do this talk was that as more companies are springing up to specialize in things like facial rigging for the super high-fidelity projects, more work that used to be done in-house is increasingly being done outside of the studios by teams that are not necessarily integrated and working off of the same project depot. That has no challenges when it's for assets that are near the beginning of the pipeline, like rigs rather than just animations or static models. And it feels like something that could eventually turn into a strain on teams to constantly update things with new deliveries. So I will present our way we try to streamline things, and possibly start a conversation on best practices among studios who rely on subcontracting for things like that. Tell us about your favorite project you worked on in the last year. Well, my last 3 years have been on Spider-Man, so I do not have much in the way of projects to choose from. But it does help that it was a very fun project, where we created some work I am very proud to have been a small part of realizing. Bring your team to GD, register a group of 10 or more and save 10% on conference passes. Learn more here. For more details on GDC 2019, visit the show's official website, or subscribe to regular updates via Facebook, Twitter, or Gamasutra and GD are sibling organizations under parent company Informa. Deep Silver has partnered with Epic to exclusively launch a PC version of Metro Exodus on the Epic Game Store, and will discontinue sales of the game on Steam later today, though all existing pre-orders will still be honored. Epic's poaching on Metro Exodus, a highly anticipated game among the PC games audience, is just the latest salvo in an ongoing war of digital storefronts in which Steam is the one to beat. It's only been a few weeks since Epic struck up a similar deal with Ubisoft to bring The Division 2 and a handful of future releases to its fledgling marketplace rather than Steam, although Ubisoft's roster will also be available for purchase on Play Store. Although it only launched last December, the Epic Game Store turned heads by offering developers an 88% share of revenue as opposed to the standard 70%. prompting some creators to pull their games from Steam in favor of Epic's new marketplace. Epic CEO and founder Tim Sweeney claimed a deal was underpinned by the company's commitment to offering a greater revenue split and deep silver CEO drive. Clemens Kondratiev echoed his assertions. Epic's generous revenue terms are a game changer that will allow publishers to invest more into content creation. A pass on savings to the players. Kondratiev commented. By teaming up with Epic, we will be able to invest more into the future of Metro and our ongoing partnership with series developer Fire Games, to the benefit of our Metro fans. Metro Exodus will eventually return to Steam on February 14, 2020. But the company was still unimpressed with the delay and voiced its frustration in an update on the game's Steam start page. Later today, sales of Metro Exodus will be discontinued on Steam due to a publisher decision to make the game exclusive to another PC store. Reads the update. The developer and publisher have assured us that all prior sales of the game on Steam will be fulfilled on Steam, and Steam owners will be able to access the game and any future updates or DLC through Steam. We think the decision to remove the game is unfair to Steam customers, especially after a long pre-sale period. We apologize to Steam customers that were expecting it to be available for sale through the February 15th release date, but we were only recently informed of the decision and given limited time to let everyone know. This interview is part of our Road to Edith series. You can find the rest by clicking here. The Haunted Island, a frog detective game. The Haunted Island, which has been nominated for Best Student Game if 2019, follows a nice amphibian detective to an land of spooky, mysterious, and cheerful animal friends. Gamasutra spoke with Grace Bruxner, developer of The Haunted Island, to learn about what thoughts go into creating a welcoming community for players to visit with the game, the silliness that came with trying to make noir a little less serious, and the power behind a smile. I am Grace Bruxner and I am the creative lead on The Haunted Island, a frog detective game. I made the majority of the game, including art, narrative, and design, with programming by Thomas Boca, and a wonderful soundtrack by Dan Golding. I have made a few games before. The best known are probably The Fish Market and Alien Casino, which were both 3D museum diorama-style games. Alien Casino specifically brought me into a more public eye, and was exhibited at a bunch of festivals and exhibitions worldwide, which was very cool for a tiny act like me. I studied for the past 3 years, doing game design at RUMID, and made The Haunted Island during my final year capstone project, graduating shortly after. Also, at the start of my second year, I got a job at the Melbourne-based games company League of Geeks, and I have been there for almost 2 years now. It started with wanting to make a game about a frog detective, because I thought it deep fun to have a game that was like Long Noir, but way less serious, with the same style of music and story, but nothing bad ever really happening. I told my partner Tom about this idea in mid-2017, and it kind of stuck around for a while. I made a plan for a game set in a beach town, where something had been stolen and there would be multiple endings, depending on who you thought was the culprit. That scope was way too big, and I wanted to scale it down for a style and mood test, and that's where The Haunted Island began. Originally, I had scoped it down so much that it had almost no interaction at all besides talking. But once I started making the game, I realized it was fun to make it a weirdly elaborate game with multiple cutscenes. I use Unity and Maya for all my 3D games. For this game, I started out by making the island, populating it with trees, rocks, grass, and water, as well as a first-person camera controller. This was to get a sense of the scale. Then I used Doodle Studio 95, which is a plugin for Unity by Fernando Romano.